everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Monster Report. You are joining us here via Skype. Nick Adam Poling, the host of the show, and I am joined from Tucson, Arizona by Mr. Everett Grondin. And welcome to the show, Everett.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be on the show again.
Yeah, we had Everett on a while back ago when I was trying to do kind of a news show, and we were talking about some SH Monster Arts, which is your big thing, isn't it, with collecting?
Yeah, it's a point. I mean, I do focus on the X Plus stuff as well, but yeah, SH Monster Arts was when I scrolled across them when they first started to drop. It was just kind of like, these things are really cool. And so I just, as they released, as they would come out on Amazon, it was like, pre-order next one. Pre-order next one.
That's right. Yeah. And so, yeah, definitely everyone out there needs to check out GodzillaFanFreaks on YouTube. Yep. You're also on some of the other social networks?
Yes, I have a Facebook page for the channel as well.
Okay.
And just make sure when you type everything in, it's all one word, no spaces, nothing like that. GodzillaFanFreaks.
All right, GodzillaFanFreaks on YouTube and on Facebook.
Yep.
Check out Everett. He's got some great content, produces it right out of his home like I do. And, it's cool to see the reviews of those figures if you're on the fence about whether I want to pick up that figure for myself, or maybe you want to vicariously live through Everett, through his, review of those figures too. So I recently picked up the Burning Godzilla from the 2019 film, the SH Monster Arts one with the big orange box. Have you seen that one?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've dropped off the ball with SH Monster Arts. I want to say the last one that I got was the 62.
Okay.
The 62 Goji. I think that was the last SH Monster Arts I got, just because it's like they do so many reissues and like repaints or anything like that, to where it's like, I'm really just not interested in that. And then a lot of the newer stuff from the 2019 films and stuff, I just wasn't interested in getting that. Like the NECAs and then the Bandais and everything worked just fine for me.
Yeah.
So it was like, the Ghidorah was cool, but, you also hear about, not only is it insanely priced, but then it's hard to stand, even with the stands it has. It just seemed more like a mess than it was worth.
Right. And
so
that's why
I definitely pick and choose these days when it comes to things.
And that's why I think watching these review shows, everyone's kind of got their own shows and their own tastes. If you want to find out, kind of like, I'm on the fence about picking up this figure. Someone else has maybe picked it up and, has those criticisms of it that you want to know first. And maybe it's like, that's a criticism of his, but you know what? I want to pick it up anyways because I just got to have it part of the collection. So you got some videos already kind of in the works. What's coming up for GodzillaFanFreaks?
Oh, I got a few things coming up. I just got in both the 8-inch and the 12-inch variants of the Pulgasari from MondoShop.com, which were a bit of a mixed bag and kind of a nightmare for some collectors, including myself, but I was able to get around all the issues. But even though it was still a pain, Mondo has been addressed to the issues, and hopefully when they release more things down the road, they do a better job on their quality control as far as packaging and shipping goes, because they did not do a good job with these figures, and especially from how much they hyped it up. You know what I mean? It was like, this is like one of the first times that we're getting Pulgasari in like a figure vinyl form, at least, to date. There are older like Marmonts and Bull Marks, I think, of Pulgasari, but this is like something that's present, you know what I mean? So you had the variants that are 8 inches that came in different color schemes, and then you got the big 12-inch one, which is more or less X Plus quality. I should have brought them out here, that way I could have just been like, here they are.
Yeah.
Think about it though.
It's all good. Well, and you got to watch the show. That's that's going to be where you pull out all the stops and tell us what you feel about the character while we can actually see it on screen too. So and seeing its articulation and whatever else that it comes with. So that's going to be a neat episode to see, because yeah, I don't know much about Pulgasari, and I'm a kaiju fan, but that's just one that I haven't really looked into. He's not a Japanese kaiju, is he?
No. Pulgasari was actually North Korean. He's from the land of the Iron Curtain. So
right,
very very interesting, and everything that I've always heard, and I can probably agree on because I haven't seen the movie myself. And that is one, though, that, again, I'll just plug them in here. Zia Records, they're amazing. They can get you almost anything, whether it's a movie, whatever you're looking for. If they don't have it in store, they can order it for you. And sure enough, they could get me a copy of Pulgasari. So I'm looking forward to when that comes in and finally watching the film. But yeah, the history of the film is Kim Jong-il actually kidnapped the director for it and his wife, I believe, and he kept him in prison for 5 years until he thought he was indoctrinated and basically forced him to make the film. So it's wild, the backstory on it, that's for sure. I know that there's a few YouTube videos out there explaining the history of it. So
that's interesting. This is the lengths someone will go through to get a kaiju film made.
I guess Kim Jong-il was a big movie buff. And my fiance just brought them out. So here's the 8-inch variant, which was the last one to come out. Green and gold.
Look at him. All right.
Nice. Very cool looking kaiju. And then here is the more of the X plus quality and size 12-inch boy. And they're beautiful figures, don't get me wrong. It's just a shame that Mondo was really kind of careless in the way that they packaged these guys.
Yeah, did it arrive damaged or?
The big guy here, he just arrived with a little bit of paint rub just on his fingertips, and again, that's where on the Facebook page I did a before and after because I already fixed them. Okay. But other than that, it was he just had a little bit of paint rub. But I do know that there were reports of at least one or two collectors, I think, that got them in, and actually, the fingers were busted, and it was ooh, it sucks. Because this guy was $175 before shipping.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, definitely looking forward to your review.
And of course, these guys were $85 before shipping, and these guys were arriving with paint rub, broken, not necessarily broken horns. The horns were just coming out of the socket from the glue. Yeah. But there were a couple collectors that it actually was a solid break, and it was bad, and it was just ugh. So
wow,
kind of a nightmare with these guys.
Yeah. Will your review be of both figures or just the small one, or
one at a time?
Okay.
One at a time, and then of course I'll do size comparisons with each. I'll do size comparisons with Bandai figures and everything of the smaller one, and then of course with the big one I'll put him next to some X pluses that everybody knows and everything like that, both 25 centimeter and 30, just so you can see where he lies as scale wise. But I mean, again, beautiful figures. It's just sad on the shipping and packaging executions.
Yeah. So. Well, yeah, that's great, and I'm looking forward to that episode. Tell me, before we get into our top 10 list, because that's why I brought you on here, yes. Tell me about your YouTube channel. How'd you get started? What inspired you to do it? And, what's your plans going forward?
Oh, man, GodzillaFanFreaks. So, I started that channel back in, my first G-Fest was G-Fest 20. And that was in 2013? It was, I think it was 2013 or 2014. I don't remember now. 7 years ago, roughly. So whatever that is. Yeah. But, and it was an idea just because it was my first G-Fest. And then I met Rich Iso. I met Samson West. I met all these other guys who did YouTube. And it was just fun just to be at G-Fest, to be in that environment. And you're in your element there, especially if you're a Godzilla Kaiju fan. It's amazing. And it just does give you a special feeling. And I was like, what's it gonna hurt if I just start a YouTube channel and just do figure reviews, you know? And it's like, it was kind of jumping on a bandwagon, but it was just another door for the hobby for me. I just did it because I just wanted to have fun. And that's basically what it is. It was just another door to the hobby. And I did my first few videos. And of course, I've changed over the years and I've gotten better. I mean, of course, I look back at my older stuff and I'm like, oh man, I was terrible. But of course, as with anything, everybody always gets better over the years. And it's still just fun to this day. I love just sitting down, and everything I do is unscripted. So if I mess up bad, I just start the video over, just because I don't necessarily have everything at my fingertips to cut, edit, add, whatever it is I need to do. And so whenever I do a video, it's literally just, I know what I want to talk about. Here's my set, hit record, let's go. And I've just been having fun ever since. And it kicked off really well. Second G-Fest the following year, G-Fest 21, I was totally caught off guard, unexpected. People were coming up to me and being like, "You're Godzilla Fan Freaks." And then I literally had to buy like a $4 Sharpie in the gift shop there at the hotel, because people wanted my autograph, and I was totally unprepared because I didn't expect it. So I was signing hats, I was signing G-Fest programs, and so that again it just made me happy. And it's like, you know what, this is what it's about. I didn't go in for YouTube for this. I didn't go in it for trying to make any money. I just did it because I just wanted to open another door in this amazing hobby that I love. And yeah, it just kicked off from there. And I'm still glad that it's going strong today, even if I don't have any videos for a while, which does happen. I do have my dry spells, but even then I'm always active on the channel, checking comments, replying to comments. I always see the subscriber count still going up to this day, even if I do have a dry spell. So it's like, you know what? I'm glad that I can just have content for people and they enjoy it. So that's the big point of it for me.
Well, great. And I'm definitely encouraging people to hit that subscribe button and the ring the bell for notifications for when you do have content you publish and put up there, that be the first to watch it and check it out. And it's interesting how posting those videos gives you that interaction with other people. I posted the Kong 76 trailer, and then you and I just started talking some Kong 76 about how much we love that movie, and
yep.
and how there's so many memories we have attached to it. And it's a great conversation, and it's a way for us, even though we're separated by distances, a way for us to start those conversations up, and even agreeing, disagreeing, what have you, critiquing this stuff, and just because like in our areas we might not find another kaiju fan that's close by. So like in my area, I don't have too many other Godzilla fans that I can have a conversation with, or throw a movie on, or show my collection to, and get into conversations with. But through YouTube, through online media and all that, that's kind of brought us all together. And maybe we'll have a G-Fest in the future. We've already had 2 canceled due to the pandemic, and we'll see what the future holds for us. So that's awesome. And all of us kind of connecting through that, like you said, meeting the other Godzilla YouTubers, and we all have kind of a different approach to our channels, and that's great. So,
No, it's great. And like what you were talking about with like locally, I only have like a few friends, and a couple of them were ones that I actually turned into Godzilla fans, friends, going to school with in high school and stuff. My one friend, Daniel, we became really close, and I kid you not, every day after school, I would either go to his house or he would come to mine, and we literally watched one Godzilla movie every day, starting from the beginning. And he was like, "This is really like cool. Like, I've always known about Godzilla, but I was never like this much into it, and he ended up getting some figures. Granted, he's not like crazy like a lot of us are. He still put out the money out there. He really enjoyed Godzilla 2000, and that's like his number one favorite movie. So he bought the SH Monster Arts for Godzilla 2000. And then he asked me, he's like, is there any figures of the monster he fought in that movie? What was his name? And I was like, that's Orga. And he was like, are there figures of that? And I'm like, yeah, there's a Bandai out there. And he, sure enough, he found a Bandai online and he scooped up a Bandai. And I was like, that's cool, man. You know, I like, you know, everybody's collection is unique in their own way. And if those are his two figures that he owns and he enjoys, hey, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's just great. But yeah, it's very few and far in between even here. But before the pandemic hit in August of 2019, I ended up throwing the first ever Tucson Godzilla Festival. And that was a huge hit. And Chris, the retired Goji Fan 93, came down for it. And so he was there. We had a blast. And it was just, even though it was just for one evening, we had a great time. I made some little Godzilla figurines out of metal that were like paperweights. And I had 50 of those made. And then for like the first 50 people that showed up, boom, you know, freebie, here you go. And then we had contests to where I actually made a King Ghidorah trophy and a Godzilla trophy, and the winner of those contests got to take home those metal trophies that I welded together. And I want to say throughout that whole evening, we probably had to have close to at least over 400 people fluid traffic coming in and out. It was fun. Wow. And I've had people contact me constantly like, when are you going to do another one? And it's like, well, we were planning on doing it again, but
I know, right?
So
that's good.
I'm looking forward to the future of throwing another one for sure, because it was a lot of fun.
I was going to say, spread the love of kaiju, you know, being kind of, you know, it's sharing the good news of Godzilla. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we need to have more of those, you know, events like that, and bring kaiju fans together. There's a lot of closet kaiju fans, too, because they might not want to admit it. But I'm like, that's why I'm on YouTube, and that's why you are, too. We're not afraid to admit it. We're going to say we're out there, we're geeks, and we love this stuff, and we can't get enough of it.
Oh, most definitely, because, again, and it's like, I'm kind of living the dream of a Godzilla kaiju fan, because it's like my dad got me started with Godzilla when I was like 3 years old. And then around like 97, 98 was when I was actually using some of my allowance money that I would get and go to either a comic shop or KB Toys or Toys R Us and buy some stuff. And then you could say that's when I kind of started collecting. And then it just went up from there. Eventually I went to G-Fest. Then you got the YouTube channel. And then, bam, before I know it, I'm hosting basically my own little Godzilla convention / festival. And it's like what? It's like, that's the perfect timeline for a fan, if you ask me.
Yeah, how does this all happen? But it all came together, and yeah, maybe you'll bring one up, and we'll see if we can't, you know, maybe we'll make a trip out there. I just hope that, you know, these restrictions can start lightening up so we can have these cons again. That'd be great.
That would be fantastic, and especially if, you know, you, and then if Chris comes up again, that would be great, because we had a blast, and I'm still in the works of it. It's long overdue, but I did have somebody film and like take a bunch of pictures. Of course, there's a bunch of pictures of the festival on the Facebook page, so make sure you go and scroll through the photos and check all those out. But I did have my fiance's youngest sister. She actually took film throughout the night and video of the whole thing. And so I haven't yet had a chance to really sit down with her so we could throw the video together, actually, and then upload it to the channel. But that's coming eventually. It'll be on there.
Looking forward to that as well. We're going to get into the top 10 Godzilla films. But before we do that, I got a couple of questions for you. You talked about your friend who you got his exposure to Godzilla. Was 2000 the first film you watched with him or showed him?
No, he when he came over, he was like he was looking at all my DVDs and everything like that, and he's like, "Let's start at the beginning." It's like I was like, "Choose what you want to watch, like pick one that stands out to you." And he was like, "No, let's just start from the beginning." So we literally started from 54, 55, 62, 64, and so on and so forth.
Wow.
So,
Awesome. So yeah, he was ready to watch it chronologically. That's that takes a lot because some fans are like, that movie moves too slow for me, or I don't like black and white, not enough action. So that's good that he had that he started the right way. So that's great. And in your list, before we get into it, do you have any of the non-Godzilla kaiju films out there, or did you stick with Godzilla?
I really thought about that, and that was something that I had to do research on my own channel because I did do a top 10 Godzilla list, and I rewatched it and I was trying to think, can I maybe replace this movie with any of the non-kaiju movies? But no, they're all strictly Godzilla. But I did think about that because I love Frankenstein Conquers the World. I love War of the Gargantuas, the original Rodan. Veron. Oh, Veron. Yep. I love that film. So there are a lot of those non-kaiju films that I love, and that would almost have to be like its own separate list for sure.
True, definitely. Well, let's get into your top 10. We'll have a little discussion as we go too.
Awesome. That sounds great. So we're starting off with number 10, and I did this list on my own channel 5 years ago, and I rewatched it not only for that, but to see if anything's changed. Because I know in your previous ones, it was like, things change over time. We might like a film that we didn't like in our earlier years. So I was surprised the fact that my list hasn't changed, but I'm excited to go over it again here on the Monster Report. So coming in at number 10, we have Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, Invasion of the Astro Monster.
All those titles that it has too, yeah.
Oh yeah, all the different titles. Gotta love it. But I grew up with that film. That was one that my dad recorded for me on TV, and I think it was like TNT Monster Vision. And I just love that film. That film I talk about it as it's basically the epitome of like sci-fi films. Because not only do you have Godzilla, you got space travel, you got aliens on another planet. Heck, I think it's still the only movie to this day that Godzilla literally goes to another planet and battles a monster in space. Like, that still has never happened. So it's like you wrap all that into one. Godzilla versus Monster Zero is like the definition of science fiction for me. It's like everything rolled into one.
Yes, and it's got the great Nick Adams. And
Nick Adams.
So you gotta love that, and it's made the list. I think in all of my top 10, friends that I've had on the episodes, I think it has, and it's interesting how you're right. It's got the sci-fi element of the late 50s, early 60s, and then of those star fields and the pseudoscience and all of that kind of wrapped in there. And it's like you can just kind of set aside your knowledge of all space travel and things like that and just say, I'm enjoying this. I love this. I love seeing the spaceships and the aliens. And you're right, Godzilla going to a different planet. I kind of remember thinking of the I don't know if you played the original Nintendo NES Monster of Monsters, and Godzilla's traveling to different planets with Mothra duking it out with all the different monsters, and those spaceships are even in the backgrounds, and you can't see them too. The Exian spaceships.
Yep, the Exian spaceships. Oh man, gotta love them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, next up is one that I don't know. I might get mixed feelings for, but number 9 is Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. I love Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. I love Space Godzilla in general. I mean, I just think he's such a cool villain. He's got a cool design, and I've had several arguments with people, but it's like, I think Space Godzilla is like his most powerful enemy. Some say Destroya, but I gotta go with Space Godzilla. Space Godzilla is just a beast when you come down to it, with all his telepathic, force powers and everything else he can do. It's like, man, Space Godzilla is nasty.
You and Chris. I think Chris is a big fan of Space Godzilla too, right?
He likes Space Godzilla too. Yeah, I think Space Godzilla is his favorite kaiju, actually. So I think that's what that revolves around.
Is it? Wow. I tell you what, and I'm not going to disagree with you. If it's on your top 10 list, that's your top 10 list. I got it on VHS it was paired with another, it was like vacuum sealed with, I want to say Destroya or King Ghidorah, the 92, 91, 92 film on VHS. And I think it was just like, where did this film come from? Because I guess I'd only watched the Heisei films. And at that point, slowly the next series of films were coming. Sorry, yeah. What am I thinking? Heisei is the original. Sorry, Showa. I came from the Showa era, but I hadn't started seeing the Heisei films, and they were slowly starting to come out. And that was one of the first that I'd seen, so I guess it kind of left a weird impression on me on my feelings towards the Heisei series in general. So that was interesting. And seeing it in the aspect ratio of the VHS didn't do it justice. At least now we've got a nice cut on DVD and Blu-ray of that film. So, Space Godzilla is entertaining. You got to say that.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's just great. I don't know. I can't really explain why I like it so much. It's just, I just like it. I love it.
It's one you could throw on anytime.
Exactly. There you go. All right. Coming in at number 8, we have Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla from '93. So basically, Mechagodzilla 2, however you want to title it.
Yeah.
That one, I enjoyed that one mainly because that's my favorite Mechagodzilla.
Really?
Out of all the Mechagodzillas, for some reason, the '93 design, I just like it. And I love the description that others have said, and I agree with it. He's basically just like a walking Super X version of Godzilla. And I just love the '93 design. I mean, he's nice and sleek. I like all his different array of weapons, especially that they're, from Mecha King Ghidorah and everything like that. So you got like that futuristic, that's how they were able to build him, was from this, monster that came from the future and future technology and whatnot. So I love all that. And that's one of those movies that, when you throw on a Godzilla movie, they're only like, hour and a half usually. And it's like, whenever I throw on Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2, that one seems to be like long. I don't know if that's just me, but it just seems to be dragged out more. I don't know, but it just seems to last a lot longer than most Godzilla films.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that. I think it's got so many different stories that are kind of going on between, the baby and, the egg that they were finding and, all of that. And interestingly, the Mechagodzilla, a lot of people may not, think about this. It is the Mechagodzilla that essentially beat Godzilla. Without the intervention of Rodan, it would have beaten Godzilla.
Yeah, it would have. And that was originally supposed to be the last of the Heisei films.
Yeah.
That Godzilla was supposed to, whether he was going to die or just be defeated, I don't know. But I think they actually set him up to die in that film. But then they pumped out Space Godzilla, and then they saved his death for Destroya.
Yeah.
That was originally supposed to be the last one. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, that's I think a better way to have gotten him to the anniversary. Yeah, what was it, the 40th, I think, anniversary of Godzilla, and Space Godzilla. You might have, some people might consider it filler film or whatever to get it to that anniversary. But again, they put a lot of TLC into that, and I guess with Mechagodzilla 2 in mind and Space Godzilla being on your list, which design of the baby between those two, the baby Godzilla, do you like?
You know, that's kind of tough because I do kind of enjoy the cuteness of Baby Godzilla from Space Godzilla just because it's kind of like that throwback to Minya and whatnot. But I do enjoy the design of Baby from Mechagodzilla because it looks like Godzilla. And then all of a sudden in '94, he like plumps up to this little munchkin thing, and you're like, how did that go to that? And then you got Destroya, and then that turns into that.
Yeah.
A wild evolution there.
It's an interesting one. You're right. He goes through his terrible 2s and his cute phase and his 4s. I don't know. Yeah. So who knows what their thinking was, but it did make some interesting. They did make some interesting decisions in the Heisei series.
Most definitely. All right. Going on into number 7 now. We got Godzilla versus Hedorah.
All right. Your list is interesting.
It is interesting. I love Godzilla versus Hedorah. That was another one that my dad recorded on TV for me. And that was on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it was Godzilla Incorporated. And Godzilla versus Hedorah, I love the music. I almost love anything that was made in the 70s. Like, if there's an era that I would have had a lot of fun in, I feel like it's like I was born late. I feel like I would have had a lot of fun in the 70s. Like, and it has nothing to do with drugs, okay? Don't do drugs, kids. But I love the atmosphere of Godzilla versus Hedorah. I love the message, save the earth, stop polluting, which is still a good message for this day. So like Godzilla versus Hedorah still holds up. And I love the design. Hedorah, even though he's just a giant flippity floppity blob looking thing, there's just something about him that's cool. And it wasn't until later when we got like Blu-ray releases and DVD and even the figures to where underneath Hedorah's arms are like bright yellow. And it's like that's something you never knew about until you got these versions of these movies to where you could see. And it was like, that's cool. And then you got the X Plus figures, which are accurate. And then, underneath Hedorah's arms are just bright yellow. And you're like, that's wild,
And this is interesting because you mentioned Hedorah, and I find that people's list might be their favorite film because of certain reasons. Do you put these films on your top 10 list because of rewatchability, because of how many times you find yourself watching them?
Rewatchability, favorite designs of things like Mechagodzilla, for instance, but I want to say it hops between those two things for me. The rewatchability, kind of like what I grew up with, or like earliest memories and everything like that, and also just design of maybe a particular monster and stuff.
Yeah, well, and I find that too, because as a kid I watched my VHS copy of Smog Monster, Godzilla versus Smog Monster Hedorah, a lot because there's a kid in it. So there was a relatability to it. And it was always the film I went back to because, he's playing with the Godzilla toys and you see it through his perspective. You're watching and I always, for some reason, I think of drive-in movie theaters because they're all outside at night. Fires are burning. They're all, enjoying their time. And then they're backing up to watch a monster fight. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's like going to the drive-in movie theater in a sense. So,
it's wild. And one thing that you bring that up and it jolted my memory. They're on Mount Fuji. And again, this is back in the 70s. But they're plugging in speakers and basses for guitars and stuff. And it's like, where are you getting the electricity from? What? Like, you think about those things and it's like, that doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, I know. That guitar can put out a mean sound when it's got power, but without it. And so yeah, I didn't exactly see any generators out there and plugging into their into their cars or anything. I didn't even see those. So yeah, somehow they made it work.
Somehow they made it work. The 70s, man. The 70s.
Yeah, they can do anything. So yeah, great pick. Honestly, I that's why I say your list is interesting already, because of the ones that you've put on there and the reasons you've given. Actually, I think Smog Monster, Hedra. Now, tell me about the translation. Have you seen both? You've seen both translations, or the dubs, I should say, of it.
Yeah.
Between the two, what do you think?
It's kind of a tough call, and I want to say it has to be the dub that I grew up with that was used when it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, and that was the original American dub, I think.
Yeah, the one also on VHS.
Yes, yeah, that. I'm sorry, I'm bad with like how the dubs are numbered or whatever, so I'll just say I'll probably just be like the most original dub or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, they call that the AIP dub. Only reason I know that is because I've actually made my own version of it. But yeah, the one I grew up with, you did too, where they refer to him as Hedra, instead of Hedra, which is probably the more specific and more accurate pronunciation of it. So yeah, I find that interesting too. Is it Ghidra or is it Ghidorah or is it Hedra or Hedra? And I'm like, just get it right. Is it? I love when I'm watching Son of Godzilla with my kids. They keep referring to Gimantus and Spiga or Spiga, and I'm like, it's neither. It's neither of those. It's Kamunga and Kamacuras.
Yep. And when I was growing up, it was Spiga.
Yeah, exactly.
Even my dad called the spider Spiga, and it was like that's just what I didn't know it was Kumunga until way later. I was like, huh, okay.
I know, right? Yeah, where was that ever said? You have to listen very carefully to All Monsters Attack or Godzilla's Revenge to hear that, and even when you hear it, you're like, who?
Yeah.
Because you're not used to those names. So,
exactly.
Anyways, what was Smog Monster? Was it 8 or 7?
Smog Monster was number 7.
Number 7. Okay.
Now we're going on to number 6, and that would be Destroy All Monsters. Excellent. I love me some Damn. I love me some Damn. And that movie is just so fun for me. Again, that was another one that was recorded on TV, and I just love the story of it. It's the first time that we had all different Toho monsters together in one film. Again, it's been referenced several times that, again, Destroy All Monsters is like the Avengers of back then.
Right.
And it's just a fun film. Again, you got the aliens coming in. I mean, Destroy All Monsters follows the basis for like almost every Godzilla video game that came out. The aliens were taking over the monsters. Oh, one monster broke free of the control and whatnot and everything else.
Right.
But
yeah,
I love Destroy All Monsters. I love the final fight scene battle on the base of Mount Fuji. It just gives me chills every time. I enjoy that movie so much.
That was one when I was growing up I heard a lot about, but there was no home video releases when I was a kid in the 80s. So it was hard to find. It was on television a few times, and so I was there to get it videotaped off of whatever TNT, Sci-Fi Channel, whatever they would air it on. And I was like, yeah, I love this movie, but I hate commercials. So I was like taping it off of those stations, and there was certain things that were left out. It was edited for TV, of course. And so now we've got a great Blu-ray, seeing it in all its glory. And so that makes the film, in my opinion, so much better as it's gone along.
It does for sure. And of course, I love the classic film. And it messed me up as a kid because I would even call him that in other movies. So, and it's the infamous scene to where it's Gorosaurus coming out through the ground instead of Baragon, but they call him Baragon. And so there was a time period to where it's like when I watched King Kong Escapes and some other movies, I always was like, it's Baragon. But then I would watch other movies like Frankenstein Conquers the World, and I'm like, That's not fair, God.
Right. And they did that in both translations, both dubs, and in the trailer. And I
Yep.
was just like, how is it we get it so wrong? And it's
Right.
like, it's clearly Gorosaurus. But if you
Yep.
didn't know that, you're totally lost. And if you didn't see King Kong Escapes first, or, for the most part, we probably didn't. And if you didn't, if you hadn't seen Baragon and any other, and then to throw another wrench in the works, if you were a Gamera fan, you also knew of Barugon, so
Yep.
confusing you even more as a kid. But yeah, that's one of those infamous scenes. You're right; it throws you off, confuses you. But what was cool is it did bring them all together. Varan, Baragon, Manda, seeing them all together there, which was just totally awesome.
It was awesome. Great movie. Love Destroy All Monsters. Moving on to number 5, Godzilla 1984.
Excellent.
I love Godzilla 1984. That one I did have on VHS, an actual VHS copy, and the ones that we did get VHSs from, as I've seen you mention in other videos, Suncoast. We had a Suncoast here back in the day, and that's where my dad would find these VHS versions of these movies. And
Yep.
1984 was one of them. And watching that as a young kid, the first part scared the hell out of me with that sea louse. That was like watching a horror movie for me. I was like, this is scary for a Godzilla movie.
It's the
But
one that still gives me nightmares. I mean, I know that sounds childish, but to think of the scale of what Godzilla was in this comparatively with the other ones, it's the one that, felt real to me as a kid. Compared it with Smog Monster, with Gigan, with any of the others. So I still find myself in the situation of being in Tokyo, Japan, with a Godzilla that looks just like that one. That's the one
yeah.
I still have dreams and nightmares about. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, they made Godzilla look just evil and scary in that movie. And of course it was built up that way too. And I like 84 just because of the elements of, it's not just Japan, but they bring in, the Russians, they bring in the United States. It's like Godzilla is everybody's problem. It's not just ours. So it's like we
Absolutely.
need to work together and figure out, what do we need to do?
Right, right, yeah, and in the spirit of cooperation. But you know what? It's the Americans that saved the day. We blew up that missile.
Yep. Yep.
Whatever.
USA. And a lot of people disagree with me on this too. I like the dub version that has the cuts with Raymond Burr in it because that's what I grew up with. And
Yeah,
I like how that connects the 54 as well. So it's like, I just like the way that it brings that together with Raymond Burr, and to me, that makes the story more engaging for me. Because, believe it or not, and this is something probably should have talked about earlier, my very first Godzilla movie, and I confirmed this with both my parents, was King of the Monsters, black and white, and I was
really.
3 years old.
Wow.
Imagine a 3-year-old watching that movie and being engaged and falling in love with this giant monster. And I watched that movie at least 3 times a day for I don't know how long. So that was my first Godzilla movie ever, was the King of the Monsters black and white. 3 years old. It's like, what? Who would have thought? But
Yeah, in the case of me, it was 84, 85 when I was about 4. So yeah, I'm right there with you, and I loved it, even though it was scaring me. As a kid, I was just like, but I want more. This is so
yeah,
cool.
it is. And again, so I like the cuts. I like the cut with the Raymond Burr scenes. I enjoy it a lot. And
Mhm.
then I love the Cybot. I love that, that was created and the way it's used in shots and stuff. That's just cool.
Yeah, I want the Cybot in my house or outside of my house because he's too big.
Wouldn't that be cool? That would be awesome.
I know, in my lawn as people drive up to see the Cybot, and he might greet you.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so number 5 is 84. And then moving on to number 4, Godzilla vs. Megalon.
All right.
I love Megalon. Again, it has to do with Jet Jaguar being one of my favorite characters. I just always loved Jet Jaguar, and I'm not a big Ultraman fan, but learning the history of why Toho created Jet Jaguar, it makes sense. They did it to basically be like, we need to come up with our own kind of like superhero robot kind of looking guy. So like that was the thing. And to also you go into Jet Jaguar was actually a design by a kid that was picked from like a contest winner and stuff. Like that's cool, you know? It's like I want to be that kid who drew that and now he's immortalized in this film. Like that's awesome.
That's right.
So Jet Jaguar, he's one of my top favorite 3 characters. That's why I enjoy the film so much. Sure, it has stock footage here and there, and I think it only took them like 3 months to film it. I think Megalon was only like.
You're probably right.
I might be wrong, but I think it was like the shortest Godzilla film to make. They made it in a span of like 3 months, I think. And but I love that they bring Gigan in. I like the way Gigan looks in 73 too. Like he looks different than he did from the 72 movie.
Right.
But I like the 73 design. And then of course they reused Gigan in like Zone Fighter. Of course the Godzilla suit was used in Zone Fighter. They used Ghidra from Godzilla vs. Gigan in Zone Fighter. So it was like, but Godzilla vs. Megalon, I love the story. You know, you got the people who are down below that are like, man, you guys need to knock it off. We're sending our monster to destroy you now.
Right. And it's got, like, for me as a kid, like Smog Monster, it's got a kid that you follow along. And so as a kid, I watched it a lot, being, you know, having that connection and standing back and having the idea of the Jet Jaguar as kind of a superhero. And it's kind of like, well, that superhero, you know, gets to go home with him. You know, he's I'm guessing it's his dad or his. Well, actually, I don't think it's his dad. I don't know if they establish.
They never really established the relationship between any of the like the 2 guys. I think they're just friends. But yeah, they never really established what the kid's relation is. He just kind of lives with him. Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question now that I think about it. They never established that.
But obviously, the Jet Jaguar gets to go home with them, which is so cool. And yeah, as a kid, that was one of the coolest things to see. Also, the handshake between Jet Jaguar, the collaboration between him and Godzilla. You know, it was they have a language together. So I kind of, you know, put myself in the place of Jet Jaguar. If I could be, you know, in that suit, actually shaking hands with Godzilla, I thought that was such a cool thing. And yeah, it's cheesy, it's campy. But we, you know, again, it's got Godzilla in it, and we love it. And, you know, like you said, all the great monster action and the weird Jun Fukuda 70s feel to it.
Yeah, most definitely. But I think it was on the Criterion set, and I have mine in my room, but I see yours behind you. They had the interview with the guy that played Jet Jaguar, and I ended up actually getting his autograph from Flossie's Gifts when he was he still does sell autographs, but he had a picture of Jet Jaguar, and it was ones that the guy actually signed, and of course, you know, he just had them in bulk and he was selling them through Flossie's, John Stanowski, and so I got one of those. But it was interesting, and I think it's on that interview with him on that disc, and it blew my mind just to think probably how kind of hard that was, because in the scene where Jet Jaguar's walking down the steps, he's doing that without looking where he's stepping. So he's literally keeping his head straight forward, and he's walking down those steps. And it's like, how many takes did that take to get right? You know, because I'm sure he had to have stumbled and fell maybe a few times.
Wow, dangerous, actually.
Yeah, most definitely.
I'm gonna have to watch that. I haven't had the chance to check out the special features on that set yet, but now I'm gonna have to bust that out and watch it. So that's cool.
I think he mentions it there, and then again, when you watch the scene, you're like, yeah, there's no way he can see where he's stepping down all those stairs, and it's like, that's wild, because even if I have stairs that I have memorized, I can't just walk down them without looking where I'm stepping. Otherwise, I'm going to stumble. So it's like, that was wild.
And that's interesting. They had the same. I'm sure they used the same suit actor for all the scenes because the suit was probably specifically fit to his body and all
It
that.
was.
So, yeah.
It
So
was.
that
Yep.
you couldn't have a stunt man doing the monster fights, and then you couldn't have a different guy doing the interaction with the humans and all that. So that's interesting. The same guy would do all of that. It's not like Creature from the Black Lagoon where you had two different actors playing them in two different costumes essentially. So that's neat to hear those stories. And this one's got probably tons of stories, and coming up with a way to figure out how to make another Godzilla film, and using the stock footage, like you said, and coming all together. But that's one I've also mentioned this in previous episodes. How many VHS releases were there of that before we finally got a decent cut on DVD and Blu-ray? Now that we can see what it's really supposed to look like.
Oh yeah, no, I had a legit VHS copy, and it was an orange box, and the front of it was the infamous Godzilla and Megalon fighting on top of the World Trade Center, which never happened in the movie. So I was like, why doesn't this happen in the movie? It's on the front cover.
Yeah. Judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, there you go. All right, next up, number 3, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, 1974.
All right, a lot of Showa.
Yeah, a lot of Showa. I grew up with Showa, so that's where my heart and soul is in this fandom. I was a Showa kid. It was all Showa. But Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Again, this one is high up there on number 3 just because I love the story. I love the Godzilla suit, and mainly King Caesar. I'm a fan of King Caesar. I love King Caesar. I love the way the costume looks. A lot of people say it looks terrible. I like it. And I don't necessarily like the way that they did him in Final Wars. I think that was terrible.
Yeah.
And I was really disappointed because the first time I saw Final Wars and I got the DVD, I was like, King Caesar's in this. Oh, this is going to be cool. And then I was like, that's what he looks like? That's weird.
I know.
But I love King Caesar. I love the story, and how he's the guardian monster of Okinawa. I even love the cheesy old school Japanese monster trope that he has to be awakened from a Japanese girl singing a song. Like that's cool in my mind.
Yeah.
And
do you have a favorite line from this film? It's got a lot of fun lines.
It does have a lot of fun lines, and
I'll give you mine. I was going to say, while you're thinking of one, I'll give you mine. I know that everyone says, the one on the boat where he's like, on a night like this, you should talk about love. Love that line, but I actually like that. Okay, I actually like two Godzillas. What does it mean?
Yeah, that's a good one too. But no, when you asked me that's the line that came to me. It's like, on a night like this, you should talk about love. And it's like, I love that Interpol agent guy.
Thank you, mysterious secret agent.
Yeah. Especially when they're on the plane with him too and stuff like that. It's like, he's just kind of random and like cringy almost in a way and just creepy. And he's like, I'm interested in the statue too. If I get a scoop, I'll make a lot of money. So I hope you'll help me. And that's it. And it's like, okay.
Should I be worried or something about this guy?
Yeah. And it's like, you're smoking on the airplane too. Is that allowed?
At that time, I'm not even kidding. It's so funny when I remember flying as a kid and seeing ashtrays. Mm-hmm. And it was just, that was what you did. We would think that's unthinkable now, but yeah, that was just part of it. You could smoke. You could take a loaded weapon on an airplane during that time.
That's true. That's true.
Yep. Yeah. Look at the story of D.B. Cooper. And, it was pretty lax at that time. So things have changed. Some for the better.
Yeah, some for the better. That is true. But yeah, no, it's high up there. Just mainly, I love King Caesar. I love the battle between all three of them at the end with them teaming up against Mechagodzilla. One thing that I actually did a video at G-Fest, and it was with Leslie Chambers,
Okay,
I think
yeah.
you know who. Yeah, we did a video, and he was doing the video with Jim Jenkins, and then I was walking by, and then he asked me like, "Hey, we're just getting ready to start this video. Why don't you come on in?" And so it was me and Jim, and we were talking about different things that we liked, and that was something that me and Jim really became good friends and bonded over. Was our favorite scene in that movie is where you got Godzilla, Mechagodzilla in the middle, and King Caesar, and then Mechagodzilla turns his head around and he's like looking at both of them, and it's like that whole shot, and then when it pans out and then Mechagodzilla turns his missiles onto like the little village down below, just the way that is shot, and it just looks awesome. And that's something that we both agreed on, is like that's one of our favorite shots in all of Godzilla history. It's just the way that was filmed was great.
It had to take some interesting timing and blocking of all the movements of that, because you could really royally screw it up if timed wrong, incorrectly.
Most definitely.
Yeah,
But
great.
yeah, so thank you very much. Coming in at number 2, Godzilla versus Biollante.
All right.
That was one, and I'll admit this, we had it on VHS, but as a kid, I was always scared to watch that one because Biollante really scared me as a kid. I actually had nightmares of Biollante, so that movie I really didn't engage in as much because I was actually scared to watch it. Like
Really?
it was a Godzilla movie, and it's like I wanted to watch it, but I literally had this fear of watching it because I don't know, even in Biolante's rose form, it just terrified me. Like I think just the way Biollante sounded too, it was really eerie and
Yeah.
everything, and it was, I don't know, there was something about that movie. But as I got older, it's like, why was I scared of this when I was a kid? I love this movie. I love the design of Godzilla. 89 is one of my top favorite suits. Yeah, but yeah, I have to admit that it scared me as a kid, but now I love it. Like I find myself watching Godzilla versus Biollante regularly. So
Yeah.
I think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as far as Biollante, so sad that we haven't seen, a reoccurrence of Biollante. It was a one-off.
Mm-hmm. A one-off. Yep.
She is such a popular character with the fandom, and I think it's probably because of that. You mentioned King Caesar, which could have been a one-off, with the exception of Final Wars. We may as well say it was, and don't feel bad about being disappointed with anything Final Wars. You're fine. So, but it's a case where I guess maybe it was so good that it would have been difficult to recreate and do it justice, because it's a huge suit. That's why, I mean, even the figures of it are always going to be huge, with the exception of maybe some of those, Defa reels or whatever. But as far as, an X Plus figure of that, I think Monster Arts did another version of that, and they're quite pricey because taking up a lot of room, and there's a lot of detail going into Biollante. And so I guess maybe they just, they struck gold, and it's like sometimes, you can't improve on perfection. So I think it's a great pick for your number 2. And as far as, seeing a Biollante reimagining, they might not do as well with something like in CGI, I think,
Yeah, no doubt. And again, you watch the behind the scenes footage and everything, and Biollante, she, like, especially the final form, it's this big giant marionette puppet. And it's like, that's crazy how many wires there were, and how many people it took to operate Biollante.
Mm-hmm.
And just like with Jet Jaguar, not Biollante herself, but the story was also done from a contest, and it was picked. So it's like, I love that. Like, if there's anything that makes that connection, I just think that that's cool that Toho did that with their audience in Japan, because that's awesome. More of that these days. I feel like, just like, have people come up with ideas and send them. It's, to me, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah. And Jet Jaguar, like you said, there's interaction with the audience, see what you like. And there was other things that Toho did that were directly for their audience or for children, like the they had the Matsuri Champion series that was just released for children, cutting out everything but the action scenes. And Biollante, I guess, is also one. As a kid like you, I didn't maybe watch as much. It may have been for a different reason. Honestly, to me, there were too many characters, too many human characters in that film to keep them all figured out. Whereas some of the Showa films, you really focus on maybe a main 3 or main 4 characters. This one had tons of them. And the first appearance of a recurring character in Miki Sagusa, which was really cool.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, but yeah, Godzilla vs. Biollante has to be a number 2 for me. Again, when I first started watching that movie, it scared me, and then it grew to be one of my favorites. So,
excellent.
Yeah. Moving on to number 1. This one is one that everybody knows, and I don't know if you know, but Terror of Mechagodzilla.
Okay.
Terror of Mechagodzilla is number 1 for me, and that is because everybody knows me as the Titanosaurus guy.
Really?
Titanosaurus is my number 1 favorite kaiju. I like him even more than Godzilla. Something about Titanosaurus, just, I don't know. Even down to his roar. It's just, I love him.
Interesting. Now, if you saw the episode I did with, I think it was Tim when we talked about, or maybe it was Jonathan, we talked about the Titanus roar and how none of us know how it was. Going back to Jim Fergierski at G-Fest when he was sharing how the roars were made, he didn't have anything on Titanosaurus, so it's still somewhat of a mystery how that was created. Interesting roar. Yeah, whoever came up with it.
And I love the twist from you had Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, and it was the opposite. It was 2 monsters against Mechagodzilla. And now in this one, it's totally flip script. And it's 2 monsters against Godzilla now. So It's like, I like those comparisons. I do like the story of, I'm blanking on his name, the scientist's daughter, Katsura.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like how she ends up being like a cyborg, and then she actually ends up controlling Mechagodzilla, like through her emotions and everything. Like, that's like, what?
And that's that whole story arc of taking you through the characters, learning about the backstory, and even having the flashbacks. In fact, I'm trying to think of another Godzilla film that up to that point, anyways, that might have had flashbacks in this story of things that were happening prior to us joining the movie, investigating where Titanosaurus came from, and then learning the alien connection that was happening with Mifune and all of that, and of course Shiro Honda coming back to direct this one, and having the great Akihiko Hirata in his this would be his last role in a Godzilla film, because he passed away before '84 and he was supposed to be in that. So getting one last hurrah with him. Would have been maybe the last with Fukube doing the music, but he did come back for the Heisei series, which was great. So there's a lot of there's a lot of finality in this film as well, and so it's just got a lot going on for it. So interesting number 1 pick.
Most definitely, and I love this. I love the effects in that movie, especially when Mechagodzilla is exploding the city. It's like in this Godzilla movie, that they had fun with those pyrotechnics, because those explosions are insane. I think they're the biggest explosions of the Showa period.
Yeah.
Especially when Mechagodzilla uses his missiles, and then all of the streets and the road freaking uproot themselves, and it's like, dang.
Few upgrades.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that was another memory of G-Fest for me, was when I had my X Plus Titanosaurus box signed, and then the movie signed by again, you're better with the names than I am, but the the two leading cast members, of the film, the Katsura and
yeah, I am
fill in the blank.
But he was also in Megalon as
Yep.
the scientist who built Jet Jaguar. I know exactly who you're talking about, but yes, him.
Yeah, that was a highlight because I got to meet them. I had my picture taken with them. I had their signatures on the DVD of Terror and my X Plus Titanosaurus box cover. So yeah, that's definitely a good memory for me. I was like, oh, this is so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that Titanosaurus is definitely one that might be a little divisive. Love him or hate him, and he doesn't even have too many special abilities, powers, whatever you will. He doesn't have a projectile, flame breath, or anything like that. But there is something about him, and that's. And seeing Godzilla take them both on, it's like, he proves himself to be the king of the monsters because he comes out victorious with a little help from the human characters. Yes,
yep, most definitely. But yeah, that one's definitely number one due to just, I love the story, the effects, and most of all, just Titanosaurus. So that's why that has to be my number one pick. I love him to death. I love all my Titanosaurus figures. I'm still holding out for an SH Monster Arts, of course. Yeah. And then he was my favorite character in the Nintendo Wii version of Godzilla Unleashed. I loved playing as Titanosaurus in that. So he's my spirit kaiju.
Gotcha. And he's a one-off kaiju too. They didn't reimagine anything else.
Nope.
Yeah.
Hopefully we see him somewhere in the future.
Maybe. Excellent list, Everett. And did you also have another one you wanted to throw in there?
I did. I had an honorable mention, and it was because it was another one I watched a lot on VHS. And again, I'm sure a lot of people are surprised because I do know that it was talked about in your one with Tim that 54 is usually in everybody's top 3. And it's like, even though that was my first Godzilla movie, it's nowhere to be seen in my list. But that doesn't mean I don't like it and I don't respect it. But even my honorable mention is in 54. My honorable mention has to be Godzilla, King Kong versus Godzilla from 62.
Okay.
That was one that, again, I grew up with it. I had a VHS copy of it, and there's just something about that movie. And I think it has to do with that 62 is my top favorite suit design. There's just something about the 62 suit that I love the way it looks. I got the Bandai, I have the SH Monster Arts, I have the NECA, I have the 25 centimeter X Plus, I have the 30 centimeter X Plus, I have the gigantic version X Plus of 62. It's like, I love Godzilla 62.
Yeah, awesome. And the gigantic 62, I think, makes a little appearance in Biollante. If you look, the character who's overseeing Mount Mihara and all that, he's got a gigantic 62 sitting with him in there, and it's just like, so does Godzilla exist as a real monster and a movie monster in this universe, or what?
But yeah, that's my honorable mention. Has to be King Kong versus Godzilla. I love that movie.
Yeah, and that's one that has a lot of rewatchability to it as well. Yep. Very entertaining.
That's my dad's favorite film. So if he had a number one, that's his favorite movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we have the remake essentially coming up, Godzilla versus Kong, should be interesting how that kind of plays out. The original one very much done for comedy, and this one, by the trailers, looks like it's going to be taking quite a serious tone with it. Maybe there'll be some room for some comedy. We'll see. But yeah, that was iconic in so many ways to bring those two monsters together on the big screen.
Most definitely, yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm sure every Godzilla fan is looking forward to it one way or another. It just looks like it's going to be fun, and that's what Godzilla is. It's a fun film franchise. Excuse me. And we just love these monsters. And it's like, whether it's a good film or a bad film, everybody has their opinions. But one thing we can all agree on, the movies are fun.
Absolutely.
They're
Absolutely. And while you're thinking of, I should have mentioned this before, while you're thinking of the last word, because you get the last word on this, maybe a line from one of your favorite kaiju movies or something to that effect. While you're thinking of that, I want everyone out there to be checking out Everett's Facebook page and YouTube page. Go to search GodzillaFanFreaks. Check out his videos. Go way back. Comment on them. Like, subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Check out. Even send a question. Sometimes it's like, we have questions. We have some ideas. We have something that maybe a request for a review sometime that he can do for you. So that's something that he can look forward to is seeing the interaction. And so great having you in this episode of the Monster Report. I really appreciate the time you've given and your top 10 list. Like I said, very interesting, and I'm not downing anyone for any of the picks that are on their list, because when I eventually come out with my list, I might raise some eyebrows too. So I definitely think that it's going to be interesting when I get to that, around to that. So with that in mind, Everett, you have the last word.
Oh, and if I have to think of a quote, it actually does come from the Godzilla King of the Monsters, and it's just when Raymond Burr says, Godzilla has turned Tokyo into a sea of fire. That right there, it's just, it's chilling. And then, of course, the cinematography and everything is just like, wow. So that's one that's always stuck with me ever since I was 3 years old. Again.
Excellent. Okay.
But thank you for having me.